1 Hour Guided Stoic Principles to Overcome Stress and Sleep Better. What if I told you that nearly 2,000 years ago, a group of philosophers developed practical wisdom specifically designed to quiet the mind, reduce stress, and create the inner conditions where restful sleep naturally emerges? The ancient Stoics, philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, weren't just theoretical thinkers. They were practical psychologists who understood the human mind and developed powerful techniques for creating mental tranquility even in life's most challenging circumstances. Tonight, I'll guide you through 7 Stoic principles specifically selected to help you overcome stress and improve your sleep. These aren't complicated techniques requiring years of practice. They're simple yet profound shifts in perspective that can immediately reduce mental turbulence and create the calm inner state conducive to deep, restorative sleep. Whether you're listening to this while preparing for bed, already lying down with the lights dimmed, or even during the day to absorb these principles for later use, allow yourself to receive this ancient wisdom with an open mind. The Stoics developed these practices through direct experience with some of life's most difficult circumstances: exile, imprisonment, loss, and political turmoil. If these principles could help them find tranquility amid such challenges, imagine what they might do for your sleep tonight. Let's begin our journey through Stoic wisdom for better sleep, starting with the most. Distinguish between what you can and cannot control. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Epictetus. This fundamental Stoic principle contains perhaps the most powerful antidote to the stress that prevents quality sleep. At its core, insomnia often stems from trying to control the uncontrollable, from expending mental and emotional energy on matters beyond our influence. Think about what keeps you awake at night. Perhaps you're worrying about a work situation that won't be resolved until tomorrow. Maybe you're replaying a conversation, thinking of better responses you could have given. Or perhaps you're anxious about future possibilities that haven't happened and may never occur. In each case, you're likely focusing on things outside your current control. The Stoics would advise an immediate mental sorting. Distinguish between what you can control right now and what you cannot. As Epictetus taught, some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. This distinction creates immediate mental relief. When we recognize that most of what keeps us awake is currently beyond our control, we can consciously release it until morning. Not through suppression, but through the rational recognition that worrying serves no purpose when action isn't possible. Try this exercise as you prepare for sleep. Mentally identify what's keeping you awake, then ask, "Can I do anything about this right now, at this moment?" If the answer is no, which it usually is when we're trying to sleep, then practice saying to yourself, "I release this concern until tomorrow, when I can actually address it." This isn't about ignoring important matters, but about recognizing the appropriate time for addressing them. As Seneca advised, the day has already fled. Seize the present day and trust as little as possible to tomorrow. The night is for rest, not for solving problems that require daylight hours. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. This insight from the philosopher-emperor is particularly relevant for sleep. While you cannot force sleep to come through sheer will, you have complete authority over your mental approach to sleep. You can choose to focus on restful thoughts rather than stressful ones. You can choose to release concerns until morning. You can choose to direct your mind toward tranquility rather than agitation. Consider how this principle might apply to common sleep disruptors. For work stress, remind yourself, I cannot solve this problem from my bed. I've done what I can today, and tomorrow I'll address what remains with a refreshed mind. For relationship concerns, this conversation needs to happen when both of us are present and alert, not in my head while I'm trying to sleep. For health anxieties, right now my body needs rest. Worrying about my health actually undermines it. The best thing I can do for my health in this moment is to sleep. For financial worries, my financial situation will be exactly the same whether I worry about it all night or get restful sleep. Tomorrow, with a clear mind, I can take constructive action. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Epictetus. This practice of clear discernment, separating what we can control from what we cannot, creates the mental conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. When we stop trying to mentally solve problems that cannot be addressed until morning, we release the cognitive arousal that keeps sleep at bay. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. This insight reveals another dimension of control, our judgments about events. While we cannot control most external circumstances, we have complete authority over the meanings we assign to them. Is a work deadline a threat or a challenge? Is a difficult conversation a disaster or an opportunity for growth? Is a sleepless night a catastrophe or simply one night of many? As you prepare for sleep, notice how your judgments about the day's events might be creating unnecessary stress. Perhaps you're catastrophizing about a minor mistake, imagining worst-case scenarios that are unlikely to occur. Or maybe you're taking something personally that wasn't intended that way. By recognizing these judgments as interpretations rather than facts, you create space to choose more balanced perspectives that reduce stress and promote sleep. Try this exercise. For each concern that arises as you're trying to sleep, ask yourself, is this a fact or my interpretation? Then consider, what's another way I might view this situation that would create less stress? This simple practice of questioning your interpretations can significantly reduce the mental agitation that prevents sleep. Today, I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. Marcus Aurelius. This reflection captures the essence of the Stoic approach to stress reduction. Anxiety doesn't come from external events but from our perceptions of those events. By recognizing this, we reclaim our power to address anxiety at its source, within our own minds. As you lie in bed, practice noticing when anxiety arises and remind yourself, this anxiety exists in my perceptions, not in reality itself. I can choose different perceptions. This recognition that you are not at the mercy of your anxious thoughts but can choose your mental focus is profoundly liberating. The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. Seneca. With characteristic directness, Seneca identifies how future-focused anxiety creates present suffering. When we project ourselves into imagined futures, especially catastrophic ones that may never materialize, we create stress that prevents us from resting in the present moment. The Stoic remedy is to focus on what's actually happening now, rather than what might happen tomorrow. As you prepare for sleep, practice bringing your attention back to the present whenever you notice it wandering into future concerns. Notice the comfort of your bed, the rhythm of your breath, the darkness behind your eyelids. This present moment awareness naturally reduces the future-oriented anxiety that disrupts sleep. He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. Seneca. This insight addresses our tendency to pre-suffer, to experience the emotional pain of anticipated difficulties before they actually occur, and often when they never occur at all. This pre-suffering creates stress in the present without changing the future. As you lie in bed, notice if you're experiencing anxiety about events that haven't happened yet. Remind yourself, I don't need to suffer tonight over something that may never occur. If this challenge arises, I'll face it then, not now. This simple recognition can release the anticipatory anxiety that often prevents sleep. The practice of distinguishing between what you can and cannot control is the foundation of Stoic stress reduction and sleep improvement. By focusing your attention exclusively on what's within your power in this moment, your judgments, your focus, your breathing, while releasing what's beyond your control until morning, you create the mental conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. As Epictetus advised, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Tonight, the best use of your power is to release what you cannot control and allow yourself to rest. Release the day through evening reflection. Before going to sleep, I would have gone over the day 3 times already, and I would identify and digest my failings. There is no reason to fear memory. In this way, I complete each day of my life. Seneca. With this practice, Seneca introduces our second Stoic principle for better sleep, the evening review. The Stoics recognized that unprocessed experiences from the day often resurface as we're trying to sleep, creating mental agitation that prevents rest. Their solution was a structured reflection practice specifically designed to create closure before sleep. Unlike modern approaches that often suggest avoiding thinking about the day's problems before bed, the Stoics recognized that deliberate reflection actually creates mental resolution that random rumination cannot. By intentionally reviewing the day, we process experiences, learn from them, and create the mental closure that allows for peaceful sleep. Seneca's practice involved 3 elements: reviewing what he did, what he should have done differently, and what lessons he could take forward. This wasn't self-criticism but constructive reflection, a way of learning from the day and then consciously releasing it. Try this practice tonight. Before lying down to sleep, take a few minutes to reflect on your day. First, simply review what happened, the events, conversations, and activities that filled your hours. Next, consider what you might have done differently, not with harsh judgment, but with a spirit of learning. Finally, identify any lessons or insights you can take forward into tomorrow. This structured reflection serves several purposes. It helps you process the day's events rather than having them arise randomly as you're trying to sleep. It creates a sense of completion, what psychologists now call cognitive closure, that allows your mind to rest rather than continuing to process unfinished business. And it transforms experiences into wisdom, so that even difficult days contribute to your growth rather than just causing stress. Every evening, I review my day, and I ask myself, what have I done wrong? What have I done right? What have I left undone? I keep account of myself daily and take stock. When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, aware of this habit that's now mine, I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by. Seneca. This more detailed description of Seneca's evening practice reveals its thoroughness. He didn't just casually think about his day, but conducted a systematic review, examining both actions and words, successes and failures. This comprehensive accounting created mental completion, allowing him to truly release the day rather than carrying it into his sleep. The key to this practice is its constructive nature. This isn't rumination, the unproductive cycling of thoughts that often keeps us awake. It's purposeful reflection with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Once completed, you can say to yourself, "I have processed this day. Now I can rest." When you have done this, then reproach yourself for what is badly done and rejoice in what is good. Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius echoes this balanced approach, suggesting that the evening review should include both honest acknowledgement of mistakes and genuine appreciation of successes. This balance creates emotional equilibrium, neither inflated by pride nor deflated by shame, that supports restful sleep. The evening review also serves another purpose. It helps us recognize patterns in our behavior and thinking that create unnecessary stress. As Marcus Aurelius noted, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Through regular reflection, we can identify and adjust the habitual judgments that transform neutral events into sources of stress. Don't allow yourself to be carried away by the impression. Say to it, "Wait for me a little. Let me see what you are and what you represent. Let me test you." Epictetus. This insight reveals another benefit of the evening review. It helps us develop the habit of questioning our initial impressions rather than automatically believing them. By reviewing how our interpretations affected our day, we strengthen our ability to pause and examine impressions rather than being carried away by them, a skill that serves us well when anxious thoughts arise during the night. The practice of evening reflection creates a boundary between the active day and the restful night. It allows you to say to yourself, "I have completed my accounting of this day. I have learned what I can. Now I release it and prepare for rest." This conscious closure prevents the day from following you into sleep in the form of unprocessed thoughts and emotions. As you practice the evening review tonight, remember that its purpose is resolution, not rumination. If you notice yourself cycling through the same thoughts without reaching closure, gently redirect yourself to the structured format. What happened? What would I do differently? What lessons can I take forward? Then consciously conclude the review with a phrase like, "I have completed my reflection on this day. Now I release it and prepare for rest." This practice, performed regularly, creates a mental habit of completion that naturally reduces the stress that often prevents quality sleep. As Seneca found, it allows you to complete each day rather than carrying unfinished mental business into the night. Accept impermanence to prepare the mind for rest. All is ephemeral, fame and the famous as well. Marcus Aurelius. With this insight, Marcus Aurelius introduces our third Stoic principle for better sleep, accepting the impermanent nature of all things. When we resist the fundamental truth that everything changes, our circumstances, our feelings, even our sleeplessness, we create mental tension that prevents rest. When we accept impermanence, we align with reality in a way that naturally promotes tranquility. Think about how often sleep difficulties stem from clinging to what's passing or resisting what's arising. Perhaps you're holding on to the day's events, replaying conversations or activities rather than allowing them to pass. Maybe you're resisting physical sensations or emotions that have arisen, creating a struggle that keeps you alert. Or perhaps you're clinging to the idea that you should be asleep by now, turning a temporary state of wakefulness into a source of frustration and anxiety. The Stoics recognize that this resistance to impermanence, this demand that things remain as we prefer or change only in ways we approve, creates unnecessary suffering. Their alternative was radical acceptance of life's ephemeral nature, not as resignation, but as alignment with reality. Time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by, and another takes its place, and this too will be swept away. Marcus Aurelius. This beautiful metaphor helps us visualize the impermanent nature of all experiences, including our current state of mind. Just as the river constantly flows, carrying away whatever falls into it, the stream of time carries away all experiences, including stress, worry, and sleeplessness. As you prepare for sleep, practice visualizing your thoughts and feelings as leaves on this river, being carried away by the current. You don't need to push them away or hold on to them. Simply observe them passing naturally. This mental image helps create the detachment that allows for peaceful transition into sleep. Remember that all is opinion. Clear your mind of all that. Marcus Aurelius. This guidance points to how our opinions about sleep often create more suffering than sleeplessness itself. We decide that we must get 8 hours, that it's terrible to be awake at this hour, that we'll definitely feel awful tomorrow if we don't sleep now. These opinions, these judgments about our experience, create a secondary layer of stress on top of the simple fact of being awake. The Stoic remedy is to recognize these opinions as mental constructs rather than objective truths. Yes, you're awake right now, but the judgment that this is a problem or a disaster exists only in your mind, not in reality. By releasing these opinions, you remove the additional suffering they create. Try this exercise. Notice any judgments you've attached to your current state. I should be asleep by now. I'll be exhausted tomorrow. This always happens to me. Then practice saying to yourself, these are opinions, not facts. I release them and return to simple awareness of this moment. Bear in mind that everything that exists is already fraying at the edges and in transition, subject to fragmentation and to rot. Marcus Aurelius. This stark reminder of impermanence might seem negative at first glance, but it contains profound wisdom for those struggling with sleep. Your current state, whether stress, discomfort, or wakefulness, is already fraying at the edges, already changing. Nothing, including sleeplessness, remains forever. By remembering this fundamental truth, you release the anxiety that comes from treating temporary states as permanent conditions. As you lie in bed, remind yourself, this state is already changing. It is not permanent. Like all things, it will pass. This simple recognition often creates the mental relaxation that allows sleep to emerge naturally. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Marcus Aurelius. This insight reveals the active quality of Stoic acceptance, not passive resignation, but wholehearted engagement with reality as it is. Applied to sleep, this means accepting your current state completely, whether that's alertness, discomfort, or mental activity. This acceptance doesn't mean you want to stay awake, but that you're not adding resistance to your current experience. Paradoxically, this complete acceptance of wakefulness often creates the conditions where sleep naturally emerges. It's when we stop fighting against our current state, when we release the demand that we must be asleep right now, that the mental struggle subsides and rest becomes possible. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Marcus Aurelius. This insight captures both the reality of impermanence and our power to shape our experience through our thoughts. We cannot stop change in our bodies, our minds, or our sleep patterns, but we can choose how we interpret and respond to this constant flux. When we resist impermanence, when we demand consistent, perfect sleep every night, we create suffering. The Stoic alternative is to align ourselves with the reality of change, finding peace not in unchanging circumstances, but in our ability to adapt to whatever arises. Try this exercise. As you prepare for sleep, consciously release your expectations about how the night should unfold. Instead of demanding a specific experience, open yourself to whatever comes, whether that's immediate sleep, periods of wakefulness, or a night of reflection. This openness itself often creates the conditions for better rest. Everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. If it's unendurable, then stop complaining. Your destruction will mean its end as well. Marcus Aurelius. With characteristic directness, Marcus Aurelius cuts through catastrophic thinking about sleeplessness. Is one night of poor sleep truly unendurable? Of course not. Humans can endure far greater challenges. By recognizing that a sleepless night is actually quite endurable, that millions of people have experienced it and continued to function, we reduce the anxiety that often makes sleep even more elusive. As you lie in bed, if sleep seems distant, remind yourself, this is endurable. One night of less sleep will not destroy me. I can function tomorrow even with less rest than ideal. This realistic perspective often reduces the pressure that paradoxically makes sleep more difficult. Think of the life you have lived until now as over, and, as a dead man, see what's left as a bonus and live it according to nature. Marcus Aurelius. This powerful perspective shift, seeing each day as an unexpected gift rather than an entitlement, creates immediate mental clarity by cutting through the fog of expectation and demand. Applied to sleep, it means recognizing that restful sleep is a gift to be appreciated when it comes, not a right to be demanded. When we approach sleep with gratitude rather than entitlement, we release the tension created by demanding that our night unfold according to our preferences. This release itself often allows for more peaceful rest. The practice of accepting impermanence prepares the mind for sleep by aligning us with reality rather than fighting against it. When we stop demanding that our experience be different than it is, when we release the insistence that we must be asleep right now, we create the mental conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. As you practice this acceptance tonight, remember that it's not resignation, but alignment. A recognition that fighting against reality creates suffering, while accepting it creates peace. This peace itself is the fertile ground where sleep can take root. Quiet mental chatter through present moment awareness. Confine yourself to the present. Marcus Aurelius. With this simple directive, Marcus Aurelius introduces our fourth Stoic principle for better sleep. Present moment awareness. Sleep difficulties often stem from mental time travel, replaying the past or anticipating the future, rather than resting in the now. The Stoics recognized that peace is available only in the present moment, and they developed practices to bring the wandering mind back to current experience. Think about what keeps you awake at night. Perhaps you're replaying conversations or events from earlier in the day, analyzing what you should have said or done differently. Maybe you're planning tomorrow's activities or worrying about future outcomes. Or perhaps you're meta-thinking about sleep itself, calculating how many hours you'll get if you fall asleep now, or worrying about how you'll function tomorrow if you don't rest soon. In each case, your mind has left the present moment, the only time when sleep is actually possible. The Stoic remedy is to gently but firmly return attention to present experience, again and again, until the mind settles into the now. Do not disturb yourself by picturing your life as a whole. Do not assemble in your mind the many and varied troubles which have come to you in the past, and will come again in the future. But ask yourself with regard to every present difficulty, what is there in this that is unbearable and beyond endurance? Marcus Aurelius. This guidance offers a specific technique for present moment awareness, narrowing your focus to the immediate experience rather than aggregating all of life's difficulties into an overwhelming whole. When we mentally pile all our problems together, past, present, and anticipated future, they can seem insurmountable. By focusing exclusively on what's happening right now, we discover that the present moment is almost always manageable. Try this exercise. When your mind is racing with thoughts that prevent sleep, ask yourself, what is actually happening right now in this moment? Not what happened earlier, not what might happen tomorrow, but what is literally occurring in your direct experience right now. You'll likely discover that right now, in this moment, you're simply lying in bed, breathing, feeling various sensations. There's no emergency, no crisis, just this moment, which is rarely as unbearable as our thoughts make it seem. At every moment, keep a sturdy mind on the task at hand. As a Roman and human being, doing it with strict and simple dignity, affection, freedom, and justice, giving yourself a break from all other considerations. Marcus Aurelius. This passage offers a complete practice for present moment awareness. Right now, your task at hand is resting, creating the conditions for sleep by bringing dignity, affection, freedom, and justice to the act of lying in bed. This means treating your body with care, approaching rest as a worthy activity, not just the absence of activity, and giving yourself a break from all other considerations, the mental chatter that often prevents sleep. As you lie in bed, practice bringing your full attention to the simple act of resting. Feel the weight of your body against the mattress, the texture of the sheets against your skin, the rhythm of your breath. When your mind wanders to other concerns, gently return it to these immediate sensations. This full presence with the act of resting often naturally transitions into sleep. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable and can't be survived. Marcus Aurelius. Here, Marcus Aurelius addresses how our minds often catastrophize when we're trying to sleep, imagining worst-case scenarios or aggregating all our concerns into an overwhelming mass. The remedy is to return to the present situation, which is simply lying in bed, and recognize that this situation itself is entirely survivable. When anxious thoughts about past or future arise as you're trying to sleep, remind yourself, right now I'm just lying in bed. This present moment is not an emergency. It's just one moment in a long life, and it will pass like all moments do. People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. Epictetus. This insight, which we explored earlier in the context of control, takes on new meaning when applied to present moment awareness. Often, our views about our current state involve mental time travel, projecting past experiences onto present circumstances, or anticipating future difficulties that don't exist in the current moment. By returning to direct experience, what we can actually see, hear, feel, and know in this moment, we cut through these distorting views and engage with reality as it is, not as our anxious minds portray it. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. Seneca. This profound insight from Seneca captures the essence of present moment awareness for better sleep. when we truly enjoy the present, the comfort of our bed, the quiet of the night, the relief of resting our body. Without anxious thoughts about the future, we create the mental conditions where sleep naturally emerges. This doesn't mean forcing positive thinking when you're struggling to sleep. It means bringing awareness to the aspects of your present experience that are actually pleasant or neutral, rather than focusing exclusively on the unpleasant aspects, like being awake when you'd prefer to be asleep. Try this exercise. As you lie in bed, deliberately notice 5 aspects of your current experience that are pleasant or neutral. Perhaps the comfort of your pillow, the warmth of your blanket, the quiet of the room, the softness of your pajamas, the privacy of this time. By intentionally directing your attention to these aspects of present experience, you counteract the mind's tendency to focus on what's lacking, sleep, and create a more balanced awareness that's conducive to rest. The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it. Be aware of the thoughts you are thinking. Epictetus. This insight points to the practice of thought awareness, noticing your thoughts rather than being completely identified with them. When you can observe your anxious or racing thoughts as mental events rather than absolute truths, they lose much of their power to keep you awake. As you prepare for sleep, practice observing your thoughts as if they were clouds passing across the sky of your awareness. Don't try to change or eliminate them. Just notice them arising and passing away. This simple practice of thought awareness creates distance from anxious thinking patterns and returns you to the present moment. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. This is the power of the present, the ability to interrupt habitual patterns of stress by bringing full awareness to our current experience and choosing our response rather than reacting automatically. The practice of present moment awareness quiets mental chatter by continually returning attention to direct experience rather than thought. This doesn't mean forcing your mind to be blank, an effort that usually creates more tension. It means gently redirecting attention from thought to sensation, from mental commentary to direct experience, again and again. As you practice this tonight, remember that the mind's wandering is natural. The Stoics didn't expect to eliminate thought, but to develop the skill of returning to the present when thoughts carried them away from direct experience. Each time you notice your mind has wandered and bring it back to present sensations, you strengthen this skill, creating the mental conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. Reframe physical discomfort. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. Marcus Aurelius. With this insight, Marcus Aurelius introduces our 5th Stoic principle for better sleep: reframing physical discomfort. Sleep is often disrupted not just by mental activity but by physical sensations. Minor pain, illness, temperature discomfort, or simply the awareness of bodily sensations that we normally don't notice during waking hours. The Stoics recognize that while we may not be able to eliminate these sensations, we can transform our relationship with them through how we interpret and respond to them. This reframing doesn't deny physical reality, but changes our experience of it in a way that reduces its power to prevent sleep. Think about how often physical discomfort keeps you awake. Perhaps you notice a mild ache that during the day would barely register, but at night becomes the focus of your attention. Maybe you're too hot or too cold, and this discomfort seems to grow the more you focus on it. Or perhaps you're aware of your heartbeat, breathing, or digestion in ways that create concern or irritation. The Stoic approach isn't to ignore these sensations but to change our judgments about them, to see them as neutral information rather than problems that must be solved before sleep can occur. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. This beautiful metaphor reveals how our habitual thought patterns shape our experience over time. When we consistently approach physical sensations with thoughts of resistance and irritation, we develop a character defined by reactivity. When we consistently approach them with thoughts of acceptance and curiosity, we develop a character defined by equanimity. As you lie in bed, notice how you're relating to physical sensations. Are you resisting them, wishing they would disappear? Are you catastrophizing about what they might mean? Are you creating a narrative about how they're preventing you from sleeping? These judgments often create more suffering than the sensations themselves. Try this exercise. For any physical sensation that seems to be preventing sleep, practice saying to yourself, "This is just a sensation. It's neither good nor bad in itself. I can allow it to be present without resistance." This simple reframing often reduces the mental agitation that accompanies physical discomfort. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Marcus Aurelius. This powerful statement captures the essence of the Stoic approach to physical discomfort. While we cannot always choose whether we experience pain or discomfort, we have complete authority over whether we allow these sensations to harm our inner state. This doesn't mean denying genuine pain or pretending discomfort doesn't exist. Rather, it means recognizing that between the sensation and our response lies a crucial space, a space where we can choose how to interpret and relate to what's happening in our bodies. The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Stand firm and be ready to meet sudden attacks. Marcus Aurelius. This metaphor beautifully captures the Stoic approach to physical discomfort. Unlike dancing, which follows a choreographed routine, wrestling requires dynamic response to unpredictable movements. The dancer's thrown off by unexpected changes. The wrestler anticipates and works with them. By viewing physical discomfort as wrestling rather than dancing, expecting the unexpected rather than demanding adherence to our preferred script, we develop the mental flexibility that reduces reactivity. We are no longer surprised or outraged when our body presents uncomfortable sensations. We are ready to respond effectively to whatever arises. Pain is neither unbearable nor unending, as long as you remember its limits and don't magnify it in your imagination. Marcus Aurelius. This insight addresses our tendency to catastrophize physical discomfort, especially when trying to sleep. A minor ache becomes evidence of serious illness. Temporary discomfort becomes something we'll have to endure all night. Normal bodily sensations become signs that something is wrong. The Stoic remedy is to remember the actual limits of the sensation, its intensity, location, and impermanence, rather than magnifying it through imagination. By seeing the sensation accurately rather than through the lens of catastrophic thinking, we reduce its power to prevent sleep. Try this exercise. When physical discomfort arises as you are trying to sleep, practice describing it objectively, as if you were a neutral scientist. Notice its exact location, quality, intensity, and how it changes moment to moment. This objective observation often reveals that the sensation is more manageable than your initial reaction suggested. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. This insight, which we've encountered before, takes on new meaning when applied to physical discomfort. We cannot always control bodily sensations, but we have complete authority over our reactions to them. This shift in focus, from trying to eliminate discomfort to mastering our response, is immediately empowering. Consider how this applies to common sleep disruptors like pain or illness. You may not be able to eliminate these conditions immediately, but you can choose how you relate to them. Instead of fighting against the reality of your current physical state, a fight that creates tension and prevents sleep, you can practice acceptance and appropriate care. Everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. If it's unendurable, then stop complaining. Your destruction will mean its end as well. Marcus Aurelius. With characteristic directness, Marcus Aurelius cuts through catastrophic thinking about physical discomfort. Is your current discomfort truly unendurable? Of course not. Humans can endure far greater challenges. By recognizing that your current physical state is actually quite endurable, that millions of people have experienced similar sensations and continued to function, you reduce the anxiety that often makes both discomfort and sleeplessness worse. As you lie in bed, if physical discomfort is present, remind yourself, this is endurable. This sensation will not destroy me. I can be present with this experience without being overwhelmed by it. This realistic perspective often reduces the mental resistance that paradoxically intensifies both discomfort and wakefulness. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Viktor Frankl. While not a Stoic philosopher, Frankl's insight captures the essence of the Stoic approach to physical discomfort during sleep. When we cannot immediately change our physical state, when pain, illness, or discomfort is present, we are challenged to change our relationship with that state. This change in relationship often involves three elements: acceptance of what is, appropriate care for our needs, and a shift in perspective that reduces catastrophic thinking. Together, these elements create the conditions where sleep becomes possible even amid physical challenges. Try this three-part practice when physical discomfort is preventing sleep. First, practice acceptance by saying to yourself, "This discomfort is present right now, and I don't need to fight against this reality." Second, provide appropriate care by asking, "Is there anything reasonable I can do to address this discomfort?" Perhaps adjusting your position, taking prescribed medication, or using a comfort measure like a heating pad. Take this action mindfully, without urgency or frustration. Third, shift your perspective by reminding yourself, "This discomfort is just one aspect of my current experience, not the entirety of it. I can allow it to be present without giving it all my attention." This practice doesn't deny or eliminate physical discomfort, but it transforms your relationship with it in a way that reduces its power to prevent sleep. The Stoic approach to physical discomfort isn't about developing superhuman pain tolerance or ignoring genuine medical needs. It's about finding the middle path between denial and catastrophizing, acknowledging reality while maintaining perspective. This balanced approach creates the mental conditions where sleep can emerge naturally, even when physical comfort isn't perfect. As you practice reframing physical discomfort tonight, remember that the goal isn't to eliminate all sensation, but to change your relationship with sensation. This shift itself often allows for sleep to emerge, even when the physical conditions aren't ideal. Cultivate gratitude as a sleep aid. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Marcus Aurelius. With these words, Marcus Aurelius introduces our sixth Stoic principle for better sleep: cultivating gratitude. While we typically associate this quote with morning practice, the Stoics recognize that gratitude is equally powerful as an evening practice, creating the mental and emotional conditions conducive to restful sleep. When our minds are clouded by complaints, resentments, and a focus on what's lacking, sleep often becomes elusive. Gratitude clears this mental fog, allowing us to perceive the world as it actually is, filled with gifts we often take for granted, including the opportunity to rest at the end of each day. Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours. Marcus Aurelius. This practice, actively appreciating what we already have rather than focusing on what we lack, creates immediate mental relief that supports restful sleep. Instead of lying awake thinking about problems to solve, changes you want, or things you wish were different, you direct your attention to the gifts already present in your life. Think about how much of your mental activity before sleep stems from a sense of scarcity or dissatisfaction. Perhaps you're focused on the sleep you're not getting, the comfort you don't have, or the peace you haven't found. This focus on what's lacking creates tension that makes sleep even more elusive. The Stoic alternative is to deliberately shift attention to what's present and available: the comfort of your bed, the safety of your home, the completion of another day, the opportunity to rest. This shift from scarcity to abundance creates the mental conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. Try this exercise. Before sleep, identify 5 specific things you are grateful for today. These might be significant events, small pleasures, avoided difficulties, or enduring blessings. For each one, take a moment to genuinely feel the appreciation rather than just listing it intellectually. This practice of felt gratitude creates a positive emotional state that supports the transition to sleep. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. This insight reveals how gratitude is not just the absence of complaint, but the presence of joy for what is available. By actively rejoicing in what we have, rather than merely refraining from complaints about what we lack, we create a positive emotional state that naturally supports restful sleep. As you prepare for sleep, practice shifting from neutral awareness to active appreciation. Don't just notice the comfort of your bed, rejoice in it. Don't just acknowledge the completion of the day, celebrate it. This active appreciation creates a positive emotional momentum that carries you toward sleep. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. Seneca. This insight points to how many of the conditions for restful sleep are already within us and within our reach. While we may not be able to control all external circumstances, we can cultivate the inner conditions that support sleep, including the contentment that comes from appreciating what is rather than wishing for what is not. As you lie in bed, practice bringing awareness to the internal resources you already possess. The ability to direct your attention, to regulate your breathing, to release muscular tension, to choose restful thoughts. These capacities are always available, regardless of external circumstances, and recognizing them creates a sense of sufficiency that supports sleep. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Marcus Aurelius. This insight that our experience is shaped primarily by our thinking rather than external circumstances is at the heart of the practice of gratitude. By choosing to focus on the gifts in our lives rather than what's lacking, we aren't denying reality, but seeing it more completely. This complete vision itself creates the mental conditions conducive to sleep. Try this exercise. As you prepare for sleep, practice what psychologists call mental subtraction. Imagine specific aspects of your life had never occurred or were suddenly taken away. The supportive relationship, the educational opportunity, the health you enjoy, the home that shelters you. Then, return to reality and feel the genuine appreciation that comes from recognizing these aren't guaranteed, but gifts to be treasured. This practice is particularly powerful for clearing mental fog because it works directly with our tendency toward hedonic adaptation, our habit of quickly taking for granted the good things in our lives. By mentally removing these gifts and then restoring them in our awareness, we break through the fog of familiarity that obscures their value. When a person spends all his time in foreign travel, he ends by having many acquaintances, but no friends. Seneca. While this quote might seem unrelated to sleep, Seneca is using travel as a metaphor for constantly seeking new solutions, new techniques, or new escapes from our problems. This constant seeking, what we might now call solution hopping, prevents us from developing depth in any practice. The Stoic alternative is to commit deeply to a few fundamental principles and practices, applying them consistently rather than constantly searching for the next quick fix. This commitment develops the mental strength that reduces anxiety and supports restful sleep over time. Applied to sleep specifically, this means recognizing that simple practices applied consistently, like evening gratitude, are often more effective than constantly trying new sleep hacks or techniques. The depth that comes from consistent practice creates more lasting benefits than the novelty of constant experimentation. Do every act of your life as if it were your last. Marcus Aurelius. This perspective, approaching each activity as if it were our final opportunity to engage in it, naturally evokes gratitude and presence. When we recognize the gift of each experience, including the opportunity to rest at day's end, we engage with it more fully and appreciatively. As you prepare for sleep, consider that this particular night is one you'll never experience again. This specific configuration of circumstances, thoughts, and sensations is unique and will never be repeated exactly. This recognition of the preciousness of each night, even difficult ones, can transform our relationship with sleep from demand to appreciation. God did not intend for you to carry yesterday's burdens today. Seneca. This insight addresses how carrying yesterday's burdens, unresolved conflicts, regrets, resentments, creates mental weight that prevents restful sleep. The practice of gratitude helps us release these burdens by shifting our focus from what went wrong to what we can appreciate, even in difficult circumstances. As you prepare for sleep, if you find yourself carrying burdens from the day, practice finding something to appreciate even within the challenges. Perhaps you learned something valuable from a mistake. Maybe a conflict revealed something important about a relationship. Or perhaps a difficulty demonstrated your resilience. This practice of finding the gift within the challenge helps release the burden of negativity that often prevents sleep. The practice of gratitude creates mental conditions conducive to sleep in several ways. First, it counteracts our negativity bias, our tendency to focus on what's wrong while taking for granted what's right. Second, it creates positive emotional states that naturally support the transition to sleep. Third, it shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, reducing the sense of deficiency that often creates sleep anxiety. As you practice gratitude tonight, remember that it's not about forcing positive thinking or denying difficulties. It's about expanding your awareness to include the gifts that exist alongside challenges, the completeness of reality rather than just its problems. This expanded awareness itself creates the mental spaciousness where sleep can naturally emerge. Develop a philosophical perspective on sleeplessness. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. With this fundamental Stoic insight, we arrive at our seventh and final principle for better sleep, and developing a philosophical perspective on sleeplessness itself. while the previous principles help create conditions conducive to sleep. This final principle addresses how to maintain tranquility even when sleep remains elusive. The Stoics recognize that some circumstances are beyond our control, and occasional sleeplessness is one of them. Even with perfect sleep hygiene and mental practices, there will be nights when sleep doesn't come easily. The question isn't how to eliminate these nights entirely, an impossible goal that creates more stress, but how to maintain equanimity when they occur. Think about how often your response to sleeplessness creates more suffering than the sleeplessness itself. Perhaps you become frustrated or anxious about not sleeping, which activates your stress response and makes sleep even less likely. Maybe you catastrophize about how you'll function the next day, creating mental agitation that prevents rest. Or perhaps you blame yourself for not sleeping, adding emotional distress to physical fatigue. The Stoic approach is to develop a philosophical perspective on sleeplessness, to see it not as a disaster, but as one of life's natural challenges, an opportunity to practice virtue rather than a failure to achieve a goal. The cucumber is bitter, then throw it out. There are brambles in the path, then go around them. That's all you need to know, nothing more. Don't demand to know why such things exist. Anyone who understands the world will laugh at you, just as a carpenter would if you seemed shocked at finding sawdust in his workshop, or a shoemaker at scraps of leather left over from his work. Marcus Aurelius. This insight addresses our tendency to be outraged by normal aspects of human experience, including occasional sleeplessness. Just as a carpenter expects sawdust in the workshop, we can expect some nights of poor sleep in a human life. This expectation itself, this recognition that sleeplessness is normal rather than catastrophic, reduces the secondary suffering that often makes sleep problems worse. Try this perspective shift. Instead of viewing sleeplessness as a failure or disaster, see it as a normal variation in human experience, like changes in appetite, energy, or mood. This normalization often reduces the anxiety that perpetuates sleep difficulties. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. We've encountered this insight before, but it takes on special significance when applied to sleeplessness. While you cannot force sleep to come through sheer will, you have complete authority over your reaction to being awake. You can choose to respond with frustration and anxiety, which perpetuates wakefulness, or with philosophical acceptance, which at least preserves your tranquility even if sleep remains elusive. As you lie awake, practice saying to yourself, "I cannot control whether sleep comes right now, but I can control my response to being awake. I choose tranquility over agitation, acceptance over resistance." This choice itself often creates the mental conditions where sleep becomes more likely. The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. Seneca. This insight addresses how our anxiety about the consequences of sleeplessness often prevents the very sleep we're seeking. When we project ourselves into an imagined tomorrow, catastrophizing about how we'll function on little sleep, we activate stress responses that make sleep physiologically more difficult. The Stoic remedy is to focus on the present rather than the imagined future. As you lie awake, bring your attention back to this moment. The comfort of your bed, the quiet of the night, the opportunity to rest even if sleep is elusive. This present moment focus reduces the future-oriented anxiety that often perpetuates wakefulness. He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. Seneca. This insight addresses our tendency to pre-suffer, to experience the emotional pain of anticipated difficulties before they actually occur, and often when they never occur at all. Applied to sleep, it means recognizing that lying awake worrying about how tired you'll be tomorrow means you suffer twice. Once while lying awake and again the next day if fatigue actually materializes. The Stoic alternative is to focus exclusively on the present moment rather than anticipating future suffering. Even if tomorrow brings fatigue, you don't need to experience that suffering now, on top of being awake. This separation of present experience from future possibilities often creates the mental space where sleep can emerge. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. Seneca. This perspective, treating each day as a complete life in itself, helps us approach sleep difficulties with greater equanimity. If today is its own complete life, then tonight's sleep is simply one aspect of that life, not a determinant of your entire future. This view reduces the catastrophic thinking that often surrounds sleep problems. As you prepare for sleep, remind yourself, whatever happens tonight is just one night in a long life. Tomorrow is a new day, a new life, with its own possibilities regardless of how tonight unfolds. This perspective reduces the pressure that often makes sleep more elusive. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. This profound observation identifies one of the primary sources of sleep anxiety, our tendency to create elaborate worst-case scenarios about the consequences of poor sleep, most of which never materialize. Research consistently shows that people overestimate how impaired they'll be after a night of poor sleep, and that occasional sleep loss has far less impact on performance than our anxious minds suggest. As you lie awake, notice if you're creating catastrophic scenarios about tomorrow. Remind yourself, my imagination about how tomorrow will unfold is not reality. Many people function well after nights of poor sleep. I've done it before, and I can do it again if necessary. This realistic assessment often reduces the anxiety that perpetuates wakefulness. The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately. Seneca. This insight addresses our tendency to postpone peace until certain conditions are met, in this case until we're asleep. This postponement itself creates tension that prevents the very sleep we're seeking. The Stoic alternative is to live immediately, to find tranquility in this moment, whether sleep has arrived or not. As you lie in bed, practice finding peace in your current state rather than demanding that you must be asleep to be at peace. This immediate living, this willingness to be present with whatever is happening, often creates the conditions where sleep naturally emerges. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. Epictetus. This perspective shift is perhaps the most powerful Stoic antidote to sleep anxiety. Instead of demanding that sleep arrive on your preferred schedule, a demand that creates tension when reality doesn't comply, align your preferences with reality as it unfolds. Try this exercise. As you lie in bed, practice saying, I wish for this night to unfold exactly as it will. Notice how this immediately reduces the tension created by demanding sleep and opens you to experiencing restfulness, even if sleep is temporarily elusive. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Epictetus. This fundamental Stoic principle, which we explored at the beginning of our journey, takes on new meaning when applied specifically to sleep. You've made the best use of what's in your power, applying the principles we've discussed to create conditions conducive to sleep. Now, take the rest as it happens, recognizing that the actual arrival of sleep is ultimately beyond direct control. This recognition that you've done what you can and the rest is not in your hands often creates the mental surrender that allows sleep to emerge naturally. It's when we stop trying to force sleep through sheer will that the conditions for natural sleep are often created. The philosophical perspective on sleeplessness doesn't guarantee you'll sleep perfectly every night. No approach can promise that. What it offers is something equally valuable: the ability to maintain tranquility, whether sleep comes easily or not. This tranquility itself often creates the conditions where sleep naturally emerges. But even when it doesn't, you retain your peace of mind, the ultimate goal of Stoic practice. As you apply this perspective tonight, remember that the measure of success isn't whether you fall asleep immediately, but whether you maintain equanimity regardless of how the night unfolds. This equanimity, this philosophical acceptance of whatever comes, is the true gift of Stoic practice, more valuable even than perfect sleep. We've now explored 7 Stoic principles for overcoming stress and improving sleep, distinguishing between what you can and cannot control, releasing the day through evening reflection, accepting impermanence, practicing present moment awareness, reframing physical discomfort, cultivating gratitude, and developing a philosophical perspective on sleeplessness itself. These principles aren't separate techniques, but interconnected aspects of a unified approach to tranquility, both while awake and during the transition to sleep. Each reinforces and deepens the others, creating a robust foundation for restful nights regardless of external circumstances. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. This fundamental Stoic insight reminds us that sleep difficulties often stem not from external circumstances, but from our judgments about those circumstances. By applying the principles we've explored, you develop the capacity to revoke distressing judgments and create the mental conditions where sleep naturally emerges. The Stoics weren't offering theoretical philosophy, but practical wisdom for navigating life's challenges with clarity and courage. They developed these practices through direct experience with some of life's most difficult circumstances: exile, imprisonment, loss, and political turmoil. If these principles could help them find tranquility amid such challenges, imagine what they might do for your sleep tonight. As you prepare for rest, remember that developing a Stoic approach to sleep is not about achieving perfection, but about consistent practice. The ancient Stoics themselves acknowledged that they were works in progress, continually returning to these principles throughout their lives. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. This direct challenge from Marcus Aurelius reminds us that philosophy is not merely something to discuss, but something to live. The true test of these Stoic principles is not whether they make intellectual sense, but whether they create practical change in your relationship with sleep. Tonight, as you lie down to rest, bring awareness to which of these principles might serve you most in this moment. Perhaps you need to distinguish between what you can and cannot control about your sleep. Maybe you need to release the day through reflection, or accept the impermanent nature of your current state. Perhaps present moment awareness would serve you best, or reframing physical discomfort, or cultivating gratitude for the opportunity to rest. Or maybe you need the philosophical perspective that maintains tranquility even if sleep is temporarily elusive. Trust your wisdom to guide you to the practice that serves you best in this moment. Then apply it wholeheartedly, not with the demand that it must work to produce immediate sleep, but with the recognition that tranquility itself is the true goal, a state of mind that naturally supports restful sleep, but remains valuable even when sleep is delayed. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Epictetus. This final insight from Epictetus captures the essence of the Stoic approach. These principles aren't meant to be merely understood intellectually, but embodied in your daily actions and responses, including how you approach the transition to sleep. It's through this embodiment, this consistent application in real-life situations, that stress reduction and sleep improvement emerge. As you drift toward sleep, remember that you carry within you the wisdom of philosophers who mastered the art of tranquility in challenging circumstances. Their insights, developed over centuries and tested through countless human experiences, are now yours to apply in the privacy of this night. May these ancient practices serve you well as you navigate the transition to sleep, and may you find the deep rest that naturally emerges when the mind is at peace. Remember, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find both strength and sleep